Yo, what is going on? How's it going? And Wes has moved his camera, or I've moved his camera. What's happened there? I've only got half his head in the picture. That was my bad. It's because he disappeared for a pee, and I thought that was all of his background, and it wasn't. How's it going, everyone? Good to see you.
It's going good. How about you?
Wes is looking around like, don't tell everyone I had a pee.
I'm just making sure my entire head was here.
Yeah, no, that's it was completely my bad, man. Completely my bad. Thank you all for joining us. Lots has been going on in VR. I'm really sorry about last week. Certain things happened, but I think most of us couldn't make it anyway. Brad's got a lot going on at the moment, I believe. What's going on in your life, Brad? What's happening?
I'm moving across the country right now. Literally the end of this week, actually. I'll be driving a big truck across the country by myself with my wife. And at the same time, I've also accepted a new job. And yeah, it's been pretty busy.
Talk to me about the job, man. What sort of role are you going to be doing?
Yeah, so there's this company called EOZ. They're known for two things. One, they're a subsidiary of a company called N7R, who were in charge of mass producing a product known as the Tundra Trackers, which was basically a full body tracker, similar to the Vive trackers, right? EOZ makes a lot of like accessories and straps for full body tracking, and have started to broaden their horizons to making other types of accessories for VR and AR headsets. And they've been wanting to do this. They had this idea where they wanted to take projects from the DIY community for VR. Like sometimes you see a lot of really cool ideas for accessories that just random people in their basements make. But a lot of those people don't really have the know-how or experience to get something from DIY to the next stages, like mass production to like actual injection molded products or whatever. So that's basically what I'm going to be in charge of, is helping DIY creators partner with us to make accessories if people want to. Yeah, it's a hard mass production role basically.
So what led you to want to do it? You know what I mean? I mean, obviously most of us. I mean, you could keep on doing what you were doing. So what made you want to do that as a job?
So mostly I would say, so he came to me. I should say Jason. Jason's the basically the leader of EOZ. I'm pretty good friends with him. I've known him for a few years. I like Jason a lot, and he uh met with me at CES to talk about what he was doing, and I kind of just fell in love with the idea because obviously I love. Okay, so let's put it this way. I love hardware. I think hardware is freaking awesome, and I love talking about hardware. But it's gotten to the point where I feel like all I'm doing is reporting on the hard work of other people, and I rather get to the next step of actually being part of that system.
That's
if
awesome.
That makes sense.
That makes complete sense. Yeah. So, yeah, in what I do now for my role in my company that I had to start, because I kind of went to a company thinking I was going to be able to do that with them, and it didn't work out.
Uh-oh.
Oh, so it's not just me.
No, yeah, I was just going to say, that's why I started playtesting, because it was kind of like getting the games at the end was kind of for me, it just kept feeling like a missed opportunity because there were so many easy wins, you know. Obviously it goes deeper than that now. Like, you know, I'm luckily now the company's kind of growing and the name's growing. Like, I'm getting in there early enough to make some really substantial changes. But that feels just as satisfying as like basically putting out a review and saying this is a good game, or saying a game isn't good and trying to save people money. So yeah, I get it, man. Like, you're looking for fulfillment, and that's awesome.
Absolutely. Like I think it's not too shocking to many people that I don't really find that much fulfillment in YouTube these days. But I still try to get the big thing out once in a while. And I guess it would probably like reestablish my love for a lot of these things that in XR by doing this job, I feel, because I can connect with a lot of smart people again, and that's kind of like the best part of what I was doing before with the channel and stuff. So
yeah, YouTube should be, I think, something for you to share a message, you know.
Yeah.
And that's the problem when you go kind of full time with it. It's kind of like, I need to upload on this date because it's now some sort of role, when really the idea is this is just a way for me to share how I feel and what I'm doing and what I enjoy. So, man, congratulations. That sounds absolutely amazing. And I hope the move goes well, because moving is like one of the most stressful things that you can go through. So yeah.
Just
Yeah, it's
enjoy
a lot of packing. I didn't. It's yeah. I'm going to be very tired this show because it's just been like a lot, especially this last week.
All that waifu stuff merch, like it must be.
Oh my god! Actually, that is true, because you know these figurines, man. If you don't pack them well, they will snap in half, and then you start crying. So that's true.
That is fantastic. So how are the virtual stranger fellas? How you doing?
Good, man.
I'm doing good. I just wanted to tell Brad to enjoy the move. Like especially the trip with your wife. It's like specifically time you guys are it's a new chapter of your life. You got this long drive. Your best friends. I mean, it's going to be an amazing time. So I'm going to put that out there.
Oh, that's sweet.
That's the way I look at it. I think life is opportunities. You know, can you make a moment out of this? And I think you can. You know,
I think
it's going to be a lot of work, but
yeah, but and then most things that have a good result are a lot of work. You know, sometimes the journey or the process of making something happen is the best bit rather than the result. So, yeah, how you doing then, Wesley?
Good, sir. Glad to be back. Seems like I've been gone from this program forever now, and I'm happy to be back in this seat, back in this chair, talking about VR.
Those headphones look pretty sharp, dude.
Yeah, you like those?
I do.
You can thank my Patreon for them, because they were kind enough to donate money and allow me to buy them. No, I needed a new pair of headphones, man. My old Corsair headphones were falling apart. And when I say old Corsair headphones, I mean the Corsair headphones I bought less than a year ago.
Oh,
They were, yeah,
well,
they were
things aren't
falling
made
apart.
like they used to be.
Got that shit right, brother.
damn. Yeah, so thank you to the Virtual Strangers patrons. Awesome. Thank you for supplying Wes with good sound, both on and off his PC. So, yeah, how's everyone
really
doing
good,
in the
actually.
chat? Yeah, I bet they do, actually. How's everyone doing in the chat? Thank you ever so much for joining us. People are rolling in. As I said, it's always like that. Like, if we miss an episode, there's always less people the week after. It's like, maybe they've quit now. Maybe they're not coming back. But we're back.
We're also 1 hour later. So that kind of throws everybody off, at least for the States, not the UK. You guys are still the same. Or somehow we traveled in time and you guys just kind of hung out.
I need to figure that out. Like I'm sure my wife knows when our clocks change, but they haven't changed yet. This is the first I've ever heard of the things being different. Yeah, I've never heard that before. So it's later in America. So that might be a good thing.
Yeah. I took it like Wes, an extra hour, for me, even if something goes weird at work, I can still, make it. So it's not bad. Not a bad thing.
Nice. Thank you ever so much to Michael Grant for the $2 donation. Now for three things, they have a Brad now. What does that mean? Do we know? Do you know what that means? Have I read it wrong?
I don't.
I'm dyslexic. I could just read stuff completely wrong.
He's talking about Brad's employer. Now they have a Brad.
Oh, yes. How lucky they are. Who doesn't want a Brad?
That's true.
Oh, and I get to do all my meetings in VR chat as an anime girl. So that's cool.
They don't care. Cool. You're just like, yeah, that's cool.
Hey, my boss shows up in VR chat meetings as an anime girl.
Oh, it must when a guy walks in, everyone's like that. Who's this? Who's this Joker?
Future.
Yeah, so a few things we wanted to talk about. I think there's been some excellent VR games recently. We're going to cover them in a minute, but there has been some very big news about Flat2VR Studios coming to fruition, part of Impact Reality. It's like a vein of Impact Reality kind of thing, a branch off. But still obviously heavily involved. Tell us about it, Wes, because obviously you're part of Impact Reality. What's it all about?
Well, it's basically a collaboration, right? All of these passionate, talented people that have been working behind the scenes for so many years to forcibly modify traditional games to be playable in VR headsets. We're now coming together to do this officially and basically tear down those walls that people have been trying to get over for all these years, right? People say that we can't have the traditional catalog in VR because it's not profitable or because the hardware uh won't support it or there's no audience for it, and we all know that that's all bullshit. So um basically Impact Reality and Elliot and the team got together, started making relationships, and then, you know, over time, person by person, the effort grew bigger and bigger and bigger, and to the point now where we're literally partnering up with Team Beef and forming our own development studio to officially fight the good fight. So it's been very exciting times at Impact, to say the least.
So Team Beef help a lot of other developers, don't they? Bring some flat games. I don't know if it's out there already, but I know there's a game that's coming out this month that they've done a lot of work with.
Indeed.
And yeah, like I just checked out Tomb Raider. Absolutely insane, mind blowing for me personally. As I'm a massive fan of that game, even in beta. So yeah, it's incredible, and I'm hoping part of this is the number one thing that I get whenever I cover something that is a Team Beef port. The first thing they ask me is, do I need a PC to play this? And my answer is always the same. No, you don't need a PC to play it, but you will need a PC to set it up. So I'm thinking hopefully that these games are going to get either like a full side quest kind of release or a full meta quest release, so you can eliminate like the PC side of it. Is that kind of hopefully the direction? Or
Yeah, well, I mean, we're intending to be a full service development studio that develops and publishes titles on all of the major VR platforms. So while, you know, some of our titles may release on PC, I don't particularly think that there's going to be any need for a PC to set any of them up. That you
I
should be able
completely
to
understand
go.
what you're saying. So that if you
Yeah.
get Doom 3 VR, it's going to be like, for example, what Half-Life 2 VR was. You download it directly from Steam, and if you wanted it on Quest, you download it directly from Quest, or for example, PlayStation VR 2. I guess if things go down that road. So that's what you're saying, like full
No,
releases?
I'm saying that we're dedicated to make full blown VR ports and adaptations of flat games, much like the game that you did not just allude to that Team Beef has been helping out on in the
Yeah,
past year.
yeah.
These are the types of games that we want to bring in. Actually, to be honest, we want to bring all games in. The end goal is that there is one day people don't have to ask, is this game coming to VR? Because during that time, you know, all games are coming to VR. So that's kind of the end goal. It's the same goal that you and I and everyone have been working for from the minute that we got into promoting virtual reality is to get to that point where VR is mainstream and that all games are playable in VR. That's the end goal. But in the meantime, we're going to do what we can to pick up partners, pick up new IPs, and pick up some classic games to launch officially on the VR storefronts.
That's awesome. Yeah. So like, as I guess to summarize, a studio would make a VR port of a game. That's exactly what this is going to be. You're going to be the guys who actually do that.
Right.
Superb. I just hope VR grows that much that developers do agree. They go, yeah, we want it, you know, because the first thing most of them are going to ask is how much money can we make, which is the sad part of most of it.
Well, once you get, you know, a client list, you know, you get a bunch of games, it's gonna the first, just like anything, the first few or several will be harder than the rest.
Yeah, you
And
need
once, you know what I
proof.
mean, you start saying, look, and they kind of already do with the UEVR mod, and like, I mean, they what you can do now. Of course, that doesn't always translate to money, but what this whole thing has proven is it's not as hard as they've been saying it is.
No, that's
And
true.
games don't have to be developed with VR in mind to work in VR. As a matter of fact, how many games, West, do we go into all the time where we're like, this game feels like it was made for VR, and they never had that thought in their head. So I don't think it's as hard to do for talented people. Let's put it that way. I can't. That's not easy
It's a
to
skill
bring
issue.
over.
It's a skill
Yeah.
issue.
And that's where we come in, right? Like
Correct.
until now, if a major studio or even a mid-sized studio was considering bringing their game to VR, all they had was a bunch of questions about what's it going to take to get it done and how much money is it going to cost. Now they don't need to worry about that stuff. They can come to us. We will do it for you. You don't have to invest any money. You don't have to develop anything. We've got the know-how. We've got the resources. All we need is the license and the permission to do it, and we'll take care of the rest.
There you go. Congratulations, man. That's massive. I really hope it helps. As soon as I saw the Team B thing, because who else? You've got the modder who did Resident Evil. Is it Rai? What's his name?
Rakuparda. He
That's
didn't
it.
do Resident Evil. Rakuparda's done mods like Firewatch and The Outer Wilds.
Oh, okay.
Neon White. He's done a ton. Stanley Parable.
And those are the best ones too, man. Some of the best.
Firewatch
mods.
was brilliant.
Firewatch was amazing. Felt
Firewatch was
like
really good.
legit.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we've also got Kabbalistic, who was the main man behind the Half-Life 2 VR mod, which is officially
Wow.
published on the Steam store.
That's awesome, because hopefully it's a way for these guys to actually get paid, outside of, well, it is nice for not to paywall something and say to someone, listen, if you really enjoy this, could you possibly support me? As now, people will buy it and they'll know directly that people are enjoying it. That's awesome, man.
Well,
Yeah,
think
it's
about
these same
that.
guys. It's these same guys. Sorry, Roots. It's these
Go
same
ahead.
guys that we've said so many times. When is someone going to swoop up and swoop these guys up and hire them? So that's what we did.
It just happened. You missed it. No.
Sweet.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
was gonna say no.
Is there
Damn it.
interested parties already like asking asking them to license stuff, or is it just like more of an announcement for now and see how it goes?
Yeah, I can't really talk to titles. I can say that we are in talks. And when we do have a title in development, it's been in development for some time now. But yeah, we're in talks with various different studios regarding various different things, and we are on the floor at GDC this week just for this specific purpose to talk to these studios about the potential for their game in the VR market.
Well, Team Beef did announce, I think, that they were talking to id Software directly at some point. So that stuff, maybe those cogs are already turning for that sort of thing. So
Perhaps.
Lincoln Clay with the $5 donation. How's it going, man? Will the Impact Reality collaboration also work to bring PvP flat screen games to VR?
I hope so.
I mean,
Yeah, well, I don't think we're putting any kind of limitations on what games we can bring into VR. Like I said before, everything's fair game now.
I was
If
going to
people
say,
want it,
yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
because
people
it's
want it, we'll do it.
legit, because it's going through the developers are involved, right? And it's like you said, you're getting the license. You're going to be able to do these PvP games or any game that's live service. I was saying last night on our show, I love World of Warcraft. I love playing Helldivers 2. Both of those have aggressive anti-cheats that would ban my account if I tried to go into VR. And so
Yeah.
being able to go into these worlds and play these games, like Lincoln Clay saying, whatever PvP it is, that's the goal. Because as good as these mods are, you can't go into those type of games. Even Red Dead 2 or GTA 5 online, which would be amazing. Both of those online.
I was going to say, Team Beef have already done it anyway with Quake 3. So you can play Quake 3 live. It's, and it's such a fantastic conversion of the game. It felt so natural to go from Quake 3 on a flat screen to playing that online. So Lincoln, if you've got a Quest, you need to try Quake 3 Arena online, because it is absolutely amazing. It's super fast. For someone like me who finds a lot of FPS is pretty slow, Quake 3 is not slow. And so that's really cool. Hope for Gorilla. I'm making something for you in your honor, Wes. What does that say? I'm scared
Michelada.
I'm scared to read it. What does that mean?
I have no idea, but it sounds delicious. Make me one.
Yeah, can we all have one? Why just wear?
Yeah, did you bring enough for everybody? That's the
Yeah.
question.
Thank you ever so much for the $5 donation. We've got Eric in the chat saying interesting times. Nothing is off the table right now. Stay tuned. In fact, kind of everything's on the table. You know, it's going to be another case of taking stuff away. But either way, I really hope the worst case scenario is that you've got too much work. Like that would
Right.
be the dream. That too many developers are interested. That'd be fantastic. And then you'd have to sit there and go, well, what ones do people want the most? That'd be fantastic.
Or we're just bringing more developers.
Yeah, or more
Yeah.
more modders kind of thing, or just more developers.
Well, I mean,
in general.
modders are developers, essentially, but yeah, we're gonna have both, people who are well known in the modding scene and just people who are aspiring game developers as well. Again, we aim to be a legitimate game development studio, and even the modders that we've brought in that have legitimate skills with regard to traditional game development.
Yeah, it's like a best of the best modders in my mind.
Best of the best. So yeah, I guess talking about games that have come out recently. Wes, what did we talk about before? Aka R. Like no one seems to be talking about Aka R.
Crazy.
It is crazy. So you both played it, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
but-
amazing.
Yeah, we played it last week. I wasn't feeling it at first. Even as a fan of like Llamasoft games, the first time that I got into it, I found it confusing. I didn't really understand the concept of the game and how to play. And while it looked pretty, I really was just kind of lost. But I put it down for a while and then I came back to it when I was more in the mood for it. And I started over again, played through the introductory levels, and that time it clicked. Now I'm absolutely loving it. It seems like a classic Llamasoft title that might be as good as Polybius was. I'll have to spend more time with it to really come to that conclusion, but it has that level of polish that Polybius had, which is awesome.
It's a very unique art style, isn't it? It's definitely not from. It doesn't feel like this generation, and it's not. Obviously, it's an older game, but it does sit well in VR, doesn't it? Like it really does.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah. The whole time I'm in there, I'm thinking, man, how could anybody play this any other way than VR? It seems like it was intended to be played in VR just because of the depth is so deep and everything's so crazy in your peripheral vision. It seems like it was a game that was designed for VR, even though it's been on the Flat Store for over a year now.
Yeah, is it on Nintendo Switch?
It is.
Yeah, and it's from Jeff Minter, I believe.
That's
Is that
right.
Yeah, Jeff Minter.
That is
Cool,
right.
cool. So you played it as well, though, Roots.
Yeah. I thought it had some of the best 3D effects in a game that I've ever seen. It just was crazy, and it's like Wes said, it's got that. It's so addictive. The gameplay. I had the same thing he had. I got in there. It was telling me to kill the enemies. I didn't know what the enemies were. That's how confusing. I was like, what is going on? Once I figured it out, though, it's very nuanced and there's so much more to it. And it's like layers keep getting peeled back as you go level to level. And I found myself going way further than I planned on. I was just going to jump in a bit before the show. And next thing I knew, it was like an hour and a half later. And
That's
it was just,
exactly what happened to me. I went in there and I was like, what the hell is this? And I'd done this tutorial and I was thinking, have I now finished the tutorial? I'm not too sure. And then I was playing the game. And then there's that moment where you go down the level to fight the things
inside.
Yeah. And then you come back out again. And I was like, that's really cool. And it's possibly got the coolest menu swapping music I've heard in a VR game. It's really retro. I don't know how to explain it. It's like the last time I heard something like this was on the Amiga. You know, like you swap left and right, and it's like a really cool tune. And I was actually thinking of recording that tune and making a tune out of it and adding a beat to it, but I won't do because that'd just be weird. But yeah, that was really cool. You wrote something today, Brad, about a massive win. Was that on Steam that you wrote that about?
Yeah, something. No, it was on X. It was something about his arm. He said some people could say this is a massive win or within a win or What was it?
There was
Trevor?
two. So he's obviously done 2 wins recently and wrote the word 2 because
Or maybe that's what I was thinking.
there was something else today he put as well. What was it?
Sorry, I didn't know it was muted. It's not really VR related, but it's gaming related, so it might be interesting for people here. Steam just announced a total, basically redone of their family sharing system. Whereas before, I believe you could share with like your library with like one person or something. And if you were playing a game, that other person could not borrow any games from your library or use it. They've expanded it to like a whole new system where you can have up to 6 people in a family. You can all play games from one person's library shared, like kind of what you would expect from like a console sort of thing, all at the same time, as long as it's not the same game. If it's the same game, then people would have to actually buy their own version per account.
Yeah.
Okay, so you can simultaneously share the library now. That's a pretty big deal.
That is a big deal.
So before you could share with up to 5 people and over 10 computers. But what Brad said was true. As soon as someone else even signed in to the Steam library, it would kick the person off, whoever was playing. And the only way around that would be to kind of start the game and then, you know, kill your connection so that you can play offline. But no, that's pretty awesome. It's pretty big deal that they let people play simultaneously now.
Yeah.
Makes me wonder if they're ever going to make a console one day, because I would really benefit from such a feature.
There was a rumor, wasn't there, about that? Do you remember? And didn't we have it on this bloody podcast with the image of it in the background? Oh man, that would be crazy. There was another thing I wanted to talk to you, Brad, about. Obviously, there's a lot of things that I'll talk to you about, but the micro OLED things for Meta. Like you wrote something about that. That's obviously not for this new leaked cheaper headset. I'm assuming this is going to be for like a pro, if they ever dive back into the pro version of stuff.
Yeah, so I think this will be a good time to clarify a lot of things actually. So before I say that news, we've been talking a lot about this LG headset coming out next year. That is like an LG Meta partnership. And I think a lot of people are kind of confused because it is kind of confusing. What LG is going to release next year is not fully a Meta product. It will have the Meta operating system, but LG hardware, LG Electronics themselves, it's going to be more LG branded with the hardware than Meta branded. It's similar to how Samsung's releasing a headset, but it's going to be Google doing the actual OS and software. So just for a moment, don't imagine that LG headset that you've heard a lot about being Quest Pro 2. There was supposed to be a Quest Pro 2 releasing this year, or earlier on in the roadmap. Back when the Quest Pro 1 released, there was rumors that 2024 they would have Quest Pro 2, and it would just be an iteration of what that was. Obviously, the Quest Pro 1 didn't do very well, and due to that, Meta ended up changing a lot of their roadmaps and instead pushed back a true Quest Pro Meta branded Quest Pro 2 further on. There was a code name for it. I cannot remember what it was. Sorry. But the interesting thing about the Quest Pro 2 they were supposed to release this year is it was supposed to have micro OLED panels inside of it, similar to what you see in the Apple Vision Pro. But due to the fact that they canceled that product for this year, there were news leading up to this year that Meta, LG, and SK Hynix were all partnering for just the creation of those displays for that product. But that all kind of fell apart when obviously Meta changed the roadmap and said, yeah, we're not doing that headset this year. But things are starting to happen more actively again with that partnership. And basically it's come out from the Korean media that SK Hynix and Meta again are talking about getting together, supplying the backplanes and wafers for LG probably later on by 2026 to actually have a micro OLED Quest Pro 2. So it's going to happen. There will probably be a Meta Quest Pro 2 using very similar display panels as you get from Apple Vision Pro. And it's going to happen by 2026, which I know sounds kind of long from like a consumer standpoint, but that's actually not that long from like a roadmap standpoint. They're getting more serious about it. And it's very important to keep this info in mind when we start talking about like whatever Meta might be releasing this year. So, yeah.
Dude, that is a lot to unpack. So
Sorry.
Exciting.
yeah, dude, like, yeah, I mean, you love this kind of stuff, don't you, Roots? You know, because you're a big fan of the Pro, weren't you, for a
No.
time?
Yeah, I'm just hoping that they have a display port on it, but I do want micro OLEDs. That's my best thing that I like about the Quest Pro is its OLED likeness, because it's not true OLED, but it does. I would love to see. I've almost thought about getting. I was just talking to Wes about this the other day. Both of us conceded we probably would have gotten a big screen beyond by now if we had lighthouses.
Yeah,
But
same.
$1,000.
Yeah, I'd have
So.
actually had one probably as a review unit. But yeah, I've not got the base stations, and I've kind of got you wouldn't think I've got a cable phobia, but the idea of plugging more stuff in, I just don't like the idea of it anymore. I'm not got to the point where people are like, I'm not getting a PSVR 2 for a cable. I don't mind that. Like one cable, that's fine. It doesn't bother me. But when it comes to base stations and stuff, I'm a bit like, oh, do I really want to do
It's
that?
funny you say that because I'm just the opposite. I've gotten to the point where I don't even want to try to do anything wirelessly. Like I'll look for the headset with the cable because I know I can just plug it in and it'll work.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, even regards to Steam Link, like in Quest?
I haven't tried Steam Link. I have not tried Steam
Yeah,
Link.
it's the best. Like, how can I put it? I think Virtual Desktop gives you a visually better experience, but Steam Link gives you a 80% near as good experience. With the latency is exceptional because I think it constantly like dynamically works out what's going on, and it just instant every time. It's so good. Like, it's so good. I always go for Steam
I forgot
Link now.
about it. Honestly, I forgot about Steam Link. I might have even tried to stream from my Quest 3 the other night had I remembered that there was a Steam Link thing
You
that makes the wireless even better.
You still haven't even tried AirLink. It might work with your new computer.
That's true. It might.
It might.
Here's the thing. You know what works? Plugging my G2 into my computer. It works.
That's true.
It works
And
great.
it looks better. It looks better with the display port, right?
That's right.
Oh, Paradise with the £2 donation. The pounds.
I'm getting my mom ready. Go ahead. I can't see the chat, but I'm sure it has to be my mom related.
It's not, but
Oh, okay.
can someone now get the my mum stuff out? Roots has got his finger on the trigger. He's put GT as a top bloke for buying us a pint. Fun story. We went to it's not that's actually that fun. We went to the Walkabout mini golf thing of Aardman Studios about Wallace and Gromit, the collaboration being announced. So we went there to like this cartoon museum in London, and I was there with a load of the boys from the community, and I was like, you know what I'm gonna get around in, so yeah. And I noticed as this guy was pulling these pints, I'm seeing like £8 come up. So £8 is probably in the region of $11, $12, something like that, I guess, a pint. I'm like, wow, this is an expensive pub, but it was a beautiful pint, so I was happy to buy a lot of them. But yeah, thanks, man. Thank you very much for that. Thank you to everyone who's joining us. Escape Portal with a $10 donation. Thank you ever so much. The more invested I get in my channel, the harder it is to watch others. I almost lose passion, creativity for a subject if I hear too many people talk about it. This is a YouTuber thing. I need to maybe read that again to myself. The more, like in a different frame. The more invested I get in my channel, the harder it is to watch others. I almost lose passion, creativity for a subject if I hear too many people talk about it. I get topic fatigue. Have I experienced this? Has anyone experienced that? Have you guys experienced that? Do you not watch other YouTube channels and stuff?
I don't watch a lot of other VR content just because I talk about it enough on the show to where I don't really want to be sitting and basking in all sorts of, you know what I mean? Like when I first started, I watched like 7 different podcasts. I watched everything. And now I have struggled to watch anything.
Yeah.
And it's not because it's just because I'm already doing this, and I feel like VR already takes so much of my life already. I don't need to spend that much more time. I feel bad sometimes too, because it's like legitimately people I should be going to their stuff, you know? It's just like a personal thing that I need to get better at.
Cool. Wes, do you have anything like that? Do you watch channels?
Well, I'm similar to Roots. I don't watch a lot of VR content. I do watch a little bit, like when I want someone's specific take on a game or a topic. I'll tune in here and there to see what you think, for example, or there's a couple of others. But I don't just watch it to watch it in my free time anymore. I haven't for quite some time. I don't get a lot of free time, so typically when I take a break, you know what I mean, and get away from it. But with that said, after you're in the space for so long, you start to notice similarities in a lot of the other channels and stuff. And I mean, I guess above all, more than anything, all of this carbon copy stuff just doesn't appeal to me anymore. Like, I can look at a headline or a thumbnail, and I already know what the video is going to say most of the time anyway. So why am I going to waste my time clicking on it just to hear somebody regurgitate someone else's opinion? So I don't watch enough other VR content to get topic fatigue.
I am
Um,
very pleased with it when he just said that I still make the cut sometimes. So I'm very. I was like, oh.
Well, you're one of the few that are trusted. I know that you're going to be giving it your
Right.
honest opinion, and you're
Oh,
not going to
thanks.
be swayed by the forces that pull on us every day.
And you're not rushing it. You're not rushing to be first. You want to like legitimately do what you're trying to do, which is tell people, is this game worth buying or not? Can I save you money? I don't think many people are doing that anymore. It's all about clicks. It's all about, and it's so easy to get wrapped up in, you know, like you see the numbers and you want them to do, everybody wants to do better, right? But it's hard to
Yeah.
stay grounded. And I think you do very well.
Thank you very much, guys. I just want to say I'm actually always consuming other people's stuff. These boys will tell you I'm always on their podcast if I can. They do it at an odd time for me. I think I have to get up at 6 a.m. to catch you guys for like an hour. I missed you today, actually. You must have had a shorter show or something. But I missed
We started.
Oh, it's
earlier.
because of the clocks. Because of the clocks.
I think we might have started. We've been trying to start earlier on Sundays.
Well, that's even
like-
worse for me then.
Yeah, it's like what time? I think we started at like 5 or 6 my time, I think, or something, or 4:30. I don't know.
Yeah, so actually I do the only thing I don't do is if there's any footage of a game that I'm reviewing, like for example, today, I didn't make the embargo for Max Mustard, but I was too busy trying to complete it. Because what I was noticing with the game, the more you played it, the harder it got, and that made it better because the first like chapter and a half is kind of like a nice introduction, and then the platforming really gets like quite tough as the game. And I really wanted to complete it to be sure of what I wanted to say because I was having such a good time. And like my title is the best platformer I've played since Astrobot, and I didn't want to make that light. You know, I wanted to make sure that I'm feeling the way I'm feeling, like, and to completion. So I didn't make the embargo, so I obviously didn't switch on YouTube at all. And then yeah, like after that, I haven't had time today, but after this, I'll probably go and check out some other people's reviews, see what they thought of it. But no, I'm more into podcasts. Like I really like podcasts, and I know we do a podcast, and that's probably why I do it. But I really like podcasts. I love real conversation. Yeah, and I think it shows you more about a person than what you see in an edited video. Would you agree with that, Brad? Kind of thing.
Yeah, if I'm watching VR stuff, it's actually only podcasts at this point. Like I don't watch anything else except podcasts. And it's usually actually I don't even watch VR hardware podcasts. Not for the fact that I'm burnt out from it, but I usually try to keep my own mind pretty clean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes sense when I'm wanting to talk about something. But yeah, anything that's like VR gaming, which is something I'm like not really into anymore, I watch all your guys' podcasts because it's like I can kind of understand a little bit what's going on there and get the more, as you said, GT, the more real attitude about it. So
yeah. So yeah, I hope that answers your question, dude. It sounds like everyone's a little bit different, but one thing I will agree with what everyone said is when you're doing this all the time, you actually, one, a lot of us who have been doing it a while and have connections know a lot of the stuff that's happening. So it's not news to us. So like when news happens, it's not news for us. So we can't say anything anyway. There's that, which kind of kills a lot of stuff. Once you know, you can't speculate. That's always an issue for me personally, because I kind of want to speculate about some things, and then you're like, oh yeah, I can't now, because I bloody know about it. But yeah, I really hope that helps out. So before we get more back into games, what about this Bloomberg article today? And I haven't actually retweeted it. I haven't actually commented on it because I was a bit like, it's kind of like, I didn't find it a surprising, if it's true, let's say, because this guy's a bit of a bullshitter apparently. If it is true, then by quoting it on Twitter, and I kind of feel like I'm adding fuel to it, like, and I don't see any positives from this, because there's a weird narrative going on at the moment, and I don't know whether it's like a PlayStation, like PSVR 2 thing, but they seem to think that Meta are somehow trying to steer things to get rid of PSVR 2, because if PSVR 2 wasn't in the space, then Meta would do better out of it, when I actually don't think there's even really much competition between the two at the moment. But someone thinks there is, and I don't know who thinks that. But so yeah, I mean, so what do you like? What is your take from this whole thing about them? And let me just read it out quickly. Sony Group Corp has paused production of its PSVR 2 headset until it clears the backlog of unsold units, according to people familiar with its plans, adding to doubts of the appeal of virtual reality gadgets. So yeah,
It doesn't surprise me. Basically, they've paused production because they have a surplus, and that's what you do when you get a surplus. It doesn't surprise me that they're starting to pile up. Most of the press regarding PSVR 2 has been negative over the last few months, and there's not a lot of confidence in the platform right now. And I feel like until Sony really opens up and shows people what's coming for the platform, that sales are going to continue to kind of taper off.
completely,
So
completely.
I'm not shocked. I don't think it's any great sign of things to come or anything like that, but definitely not the best news, right?
No, it's just like, it just seems to be coming. It was like only like 2 or 3 weeks ago that we had something else from IGN writing stuff. But yeah, the only thing that really, I mean, if this is true, this is all going on. If it is true, the only thing that worries me about this is the second-hand market is actually pretty big for PSVR 2, and I check it a lot just to see, because obviously people say things to me like, oh, I don't need to buy a new one. I'm not going to buy a new one. I'm going to get one second hand. And I'm like, so how much are these? And a lot of them are in really good condition because they're not old. And they're like £200 cheaper than buying a new unit. So it's just, I don't, that's almost a vicious cycle in itself, that they're not going to sell the new ones unless they do a price drop, which I mean, obviously they don't seem to be interested in.
How about they advertise? And how about they
Yeah.
like fucking market the headset a little bit, and how about they, like if they've got games, start, like Wes said, start coming out and telling people, hey, what's going on? Yeah, we've got this game. Yeah, it's 2 years away, but it's there. I just feel like there's a lot because not enough is being said, and because it really wasn't marketed very well or much at all compared to other things. It's not a shock, and I think if they just started doing some of those things, they could probably, even just getting one good big banger that would give people a reason to get it, that's outside of this fear. So they've already got everybody that's interested already.
I just don't get
Now
this.
they need to get people outside of VR, right? And they're not pulling
Yeah.
anybody with what the games at this point, so I don't know.
There's just little things I think they would have done by now, like a Resident Evil 4 bundle, at a special discount price, just to, over the Christmas period, things that everyone talks about. And it doesn't sound a drastic thing to say, because if you look at Nintendo, for example, how many editions of consoles do they have? How many different colors? How many different games do you get that is like a specific console to go with that game, for example?
Do they
Right.
still
Yeah.
sell the Horizon bundle in stores?
That's the only bundle they have.
So usually when you have bundles like that, they usually like obviously package them and manufacture them in mind for that. And if they still are selling those, they probably haven't sold through all of them for that batch that they planned it. And they don't want to do another bundle until they sell through it. But if they're not selling units, it's this kind of vicious cycle going on.
Right.
So
And what Brad says is true. They only did maybe 4 or 5 of these types of bundles during the entire lifespan of PSVR 1. And there was always a bundle available, but there was only a few times that they switched it up. And I imagine that they probably stopped and started production quite a bit during that era as well. And who knows, that there could be a version 2 uh that they're getting ready to, as soon as they sell these ones out, that they're going to start producing a different version. They did that with the original PSVR, where there was a couple of different versions with some small modifications made to them. So again, yeah, what you say is true, but they would need to sell out all of these Horizon bundles before they consider doing a new one, I would imagine.
Yeah, I just hate the idea of, if someone says to me now about buying a PSVR 2, my first remark is now have a look secondhand. Like if you're thinking about it, if you're thinking about coming into VR and you're like, what do I get? Quest 3, PSVR 2, the prices are very similar actually if you go secondhand. So it's like,
Right.
and most of them I check, honestly, I look probably every other day, and they're boxed, they look great, and they all say the same thing. Well, two of the same things. They've either got the VR sickness or they've hardly used it, and that's
Right.
the two big comments. But yeah,
Do you think part of it might have to do with maybe they got the Horizon bundle and that was the game they went into and it made them sick? You know, because with all the weird lighting, and I think that even what was it? What game was it you were mentioning, Wes? I think it was Twilight Zone. You said there was a couple places that had some FPS or some
Reprojection.
reprojection, right? Like it's a
Oh.
problem that they need to fix. You know, like that shouldn't be a thing on any game. And I know it's a game by game thing, but if it's just VR is such a thing where you're putting somebody maybe for their first time in this game, and that's the game that they say, it makes me sick. But then
dude,
we explain it away like it's no big deal, and like a lot of different games, like with Quest and Eric with the Nexus, and some of the micro stutters, and like because we're in the space, we make a lot of excuses for things that should never be that should never be a thing. And how do they get to a point where that's never a thing is the question, because I don't know. Because it's one thing to get sick because your mind is telling you you're moving and you're not. You can't fix that, but they can fix this.
no, you're right. You are absolutely right.
Yeah.
So I did a video for Lawn Mowing Simulator, and I don't get travel sick, but I know what travel sickness is. When I was a kid, I got it constantly, like constantly. My parents, even though they knew I was travel sick, decided to drive from England to the other side of France. I think I ate one biscuit in 3 days or something, because it wouldn't matter. I just couldn't hold anything down. So the only way I could travel is to not eat. And yeah, literally playing that game, when I was playing, I was thinking, I know this feeling. This is a weird feeling. And it happened. And so I had a break because I hadn't eaten yet. I'd been to the gym, I'd done loads of stuff. I forgot to eat. So I was like, right, I'll have something to eat, have a break. Came back, same feeling within 5 minutes. And even though I could push through it, I do think I could keep going, and I'd just feel queasy the whole time. But I was thinking, nah, man, there's something wrong with this. And then, Denny, I think he's Denny from Cloud Gaming, the pistol whip guy. He basically said that there was like a thing that developers have to do to stop it, and they haven't done it. And he kind of confirmed that it's a hurl simulator. So I really look forward to seeing how people react to it, because BMF messaged me and he hadn't seen my video, and he went, dude, I nearly threw up playing Lawn Mowing Simulator. I was like, yes, gonna have a load of people. So yeah, if you haven't experienced VR sickness and you want to know what all the fuss is about,
There it is.
Lawn Mower
Hit-
Simulator.
They could sell that as a simulator, the puking simulator, right?
How serious is VR sickness? Try it now. Yeah, dude, It was absolutely crazy. Not had anything like that before. I hope someone hasn't said anything really horrible to Brad because he's run off. Was he in tears? I
He's-
didn't,
Oh
didn't see.
He
no,
said
I
he's
think
going
he.
to go grab a conversation piece.
Oh, I thought maybe he got sick
Oh.
from motion sickness.
Do you think he's bringing
The conversation.
some waifu to the chat?
Oh, maybe.
Maybe.
You know who loves it when Brad grabs his piece?
A little too much. Just stop.
But yeah, plenty of people in the chat have all got their ideas about why PSVR 2 isn't doing well. But what I hope is that no one wants it not to do well. That
No.
I honestly don't think. I know, and I said at the beginning, this narrative of where somehow, and I'm assuming they mean meta when they talk about a competitor doing well out of it. No one gains from PSVR 2 not being here. No one gains. That is I don't know where that come from. It's not true. PSVR 2 not succeeding is a bad thing. Like, it's not good for anyone. But Brad, I heard you've got some sort of thing you want to pick up and show us. Show and tell. Show the class.
So I have some like hot takes I thought I would kind of bring up with the motion sickness thing, because I've been having these thoughts a lot more recently, especially since I know you just recently did a video, GT, about like the Quest 3 Lite and like how basically you see this kind of like this transition phase in the industry where there's a lot of mixed reality focus kind of happening even from Meta, right? And one of the benefits of that is, for the most part, AR experiences don't make people sick, right? It's very rare that you hear, oh, I got motion sick by seeing something in my environment. And then I've been thinking about, so I got a prototype I'm very proud that I finally got my hands on. It's been something I've been trying to get my hands on for literally years at this point. So everyone knows this is the Knuckles, or the index controller, like what they look like. And they all have this little joystick that sucks. I hate it. Anyway, this is what the first generation, or the first prototype of the Knuckles looked like, and what they were kind of planning to go with. They were planning not to have any joystick at all. And a lot of the reasons that Valve were going to do this is because Valve in the early days were very, very stingent on the idea that, hey, if we put a joystick in our controllers, that will kind of push developers to want to implement things that might make our players sick. And you can see a lot of like old interviews and like a lot of former Valve employees. They're still very kind of hard rock on their stance that the biggest problem for VR is the fact that even though we're in this bubble and we kind of see the same people all the time, and people do buy new VR headsets and get into VR and love it, there's still a huge subset of people that no matter what you do, they will get sick. And it's kind of gotten to the point where there might be this survivorship bias where the people that stuck around are wanting more intense games and more like games that are similar to AAA.
Which is worse, which is even worse for the situation. Yeah, okay.
Exactly. So it's a self-perpetuating cycle where we, the people are still here, want content that is more like the AAA content on console, but really that's kind of destructive to getting more users in to also kind of fuel the industry and get more content to be made. That it's a problem is what I'm saying. It's a huge problem. So yeah.
Just looking at the controller, I mean, it looks like a thumb pad, which to me would then take out any sudden jitters of movement instantly. Is that where it was going? I mean,
so you have to remember back the early days, everything was teleport only. And it's kind of funny because there's not too many immersive games on the Vision Pro. And I realized the more I've been like using the Vision Pro and stuff, it feels a lot like a reset back to 2016. I'm kind of getting a weird nostalgia from trying out some of these experiences in games, because it's just like that. And a lot of it is to do with the fact that, not that Apple's forcing it on people, but a lot of developers are kind of going back to the idea that, hey, we don't even have a joystick. We don't even have controllers. Let's just have people teleport around and do stuff in their environment, which I know it's very, it's good to have both options, right? That's the ideal. You start people with teleport because that'll make people less sick, and then you kind of get them into the locomotion if they can. But again, having a joy or a touchpad was what people were doing back then. The Vive controllers had a touchpad because the idea was not only could you track your thumb movement pretty good with the controller, but you can actually map each parts of the trackpads at different buttons, and then you would only hold it down to actually activate your teleport gesture. But Valve actually lost that kind of argument with developers back in the day, and they ended up adding a joystick, and they released one game, Half-Life Alyx, and they ended up putting artificial locomotion at the very end, according to all the people who worked on that game.
It's slow though. It's a very slow moving game, isn't it? Like I was playing it recently and it really made me realize how slow and how much you have to rely on the teleport almost to move around. And that and I think you can choose between dash or instantaneous teleport as well. So actually I think everything you're saying is completely spot on. Yeah.
It makes sense though that they have that controller because they, a lot of people give HTC too much credit because they didn't create that headset, right? Like they just kind of borrowed it for a while and trashed the name and then moved on to other stuff. Like they got handed everything, and that's just crazy. But it's pretty much the same controller almost, but better. I wonder what it would be like. So
this is trash the name.
I'm a big believer of touchpads. I kind of wish. I mean, I'm crazy because obviously I don't really even care about games, but like one of the inputs you can use on the Vision Pro is touchpad, and like I'm a big trackpad fan in general. So
I'm on team thumbstick here because I have a thumb with a locked knuckle and only partial feeling in it, so I have to have a thumbstick to be able to move in these games.
My thing too is like this thing here has worked. Like I've used it my whole life in some iteration, right? And so like I'm good at it. It's like the kids today with texting and how fast they are, or I guess I don't even know if if they text much anymore, but it's just crazy.
How do you think they communicate if they don't text, Roots?
Telepathy, I think. I think we're getting to that point now. Everything's
Mate,
so
just
advanced,
emojis.
right?
I was gonna say,
emojis.
if I ring someone up, they're like, "Why did you ring me? You could have just text." And I'm like, why does anyone want to keep texting, dude? It's fucking boring. I have to send a gazillion texts because another thing that people want to do now, and I see it so much in Discord, is if you've got a sentence, it's broken up into 4 sentences to say the same thing. Do you know what I mean? Like it's one conversation from one person, but they won't write a block of text. They'll write it like they breathe almost. Yeah. So as me, I'm like, dude, just fucking ring me up, man. Let's just get this done quick. What was I going to say? Actually, do you know what, Rose? It'd be so funny if someone from HTC
was in the chat. I've trashed them so many times.
It's so funny. Like that's their.
Well, this is the thing I
love it.
I always gloss over when I trash them. They have such a presence in business, and like even just when I went to Dave and Buster's recently, it was the Vive Pro, that was sitting there. So like the way that all that went down, I feel like they did waste a big opportunity, right? Like that was the best headset at the time, and they just blew it.
They just blew it.
They just blew it.
Do you know who else likes to blow?
Just blow it?
Blow it?
Yeah, she's not exclusive to that.
The chat are being terrible
She does
today.
enjoy it.
The chat are like not taking part in the mum jokes at all.
Who's
missing? Who makes this stuff happen more so than me?
Usually PD. That's why I said when you said PD did a thing, I said, okay, let me get ready. And he let me down. Paradise. What are you doing?
He's going in the chat right now.
Come on, man.
Come on, man.
Oh, do you know what Roots has tickled me? It keeps going round and round in my brain, and I don't want it to. Did you guys try Cube VR? Have you tried that or anything like that? It was on PC for ages. It's like a Minecraft.
I tried something like it once. It was called Minecraft.
Oh yeah. Oh, so is that what it was? Is that what? Yeah.
Oh, dear.
Is that the one? I know there was a version of Minecraft where everyone got all excited. You can swing the pickaxe and stuff. And my first thought was, I don't want to swing the pickaxe. Like, really? I mean, in a game like that, do you really want to swing the pickaxe after about 3 minutes?
He doesn't
want... that's all you do is fucking swing that axe.
Dude, he does not want proper VR games. He wants a hybrid. He wants to look. He wants it to look in VR, but he just wants to sit there and do nothing.
I think that there's some games when you want to swing, but like if the main goal of the game is to break blocks with your pickaxe, have at it. You know, like that, you're going to be doing that for fucking 4 hours. That to me is just doesn't, that doesn't sound like
Do
fun.
you know who likes to swing for 4 hours? Yeah, come on, guys! Look, I'm not going to do it
Yes,
anymore.
it does.
I'll stop. It's only because I'm tired. This stuff's coming up.
But no, PD, I haven't tried Cube. I've heard good things about it. I heard that it's crystal clear on PlayStation VR.
Really?
Beautiful.
That they're rendering out in 8K. They're rendering out
Jesus.
on PlayStation. And yeah, I'm hearing a lot of good things about it.
Yeah, it's cool. It's cool. There was something that bloody came in my head about what we was talking about motion sickness and about headsets, and for the life of me, it's completely gone. But yeah, that's really done my head in now. Oh yeah, so did we learn anything new about the new Meta Quest S Lite apart from the fact that it sounds a little bit crappier than a Quest 3? Yeah.
It is legit then, because people were saying that at least what I saw, they were saying they weren't sure if it was. I mean, it looks real to me, but
I mean, to be fair, technically nothing is confirmed. Is it? Officially,
Right.
Nothing is confirmed.
Let's speculate about as if it were real, just for
fun.
For fun. Yeah.
For fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's pretend.
So yeah, the leak had a couple things that were notable. One, they didn't show controllers. Two, they had a 3-camera array per eye. 3, it looked like they were using the same display as Quest 2, same storage options, and Fresnel lenses.
ooh.
Look at it. Well, that doesn't bother me so bad I mean, the Quest 2 screens aren't bad. They have to make up that money somewhere. They can't just, make a Quest 3 and give it away. But it does have the color pass through. I think it's pretty important. And I think that it needs controllers. I think if it has those two things, people will get over the fact. And of course, it needs to have that processor, right? It needs to have the power under the hood. But I think if it has all that stuff, people will forgive it for having Fresnel lenses and last gen LCD screens.
What price would you put on that then?
It's probably going to be $200, I would imagine, right?
$200? Do you
No
reckon?
controllers?
$199.
Yeah. Right. And
Oh,
then what
if
the speculation has been from day one that
If you could
they're
do
gonna put
that, that's huge. I wouldn't
Yeah.
want. I would rather have a better
Okay.
display than color pass through personally, but that's just me. But I mean, I don't know. I guess it's not a part and pick what you want, and
I
The
think the
one
most it
thing-
would be is $299, like $300.
Yeah, I think $299, but $199's crazy. Like, as in that would be insane.
that's no brainer.
Yeah, that's
You
no-brainer
you have to pick
territory.
this up.
Yeah. Go on, Brad. Sorry.
One thing that people weren't really talking about the leak that I was kind of surprised about was people didn't discuss what the 3rd camera per array would be. So for those who don't know, it looks like a lot like a Barrio XR3 camera array, whereas each eye has like this kind of like splinter cell looking thing. One would be obviously black and white camera, one would be color camera. Again, we're talking about per eye. The third one, no one talked about, but considering what I understand from how hardware works, that would probably, I'm willing to bet money if this leak is real and this camera array exists in the final product. I really think that would be IR illuminators purely focused on making hand tracking better, not only just better already, but also in low light scenarios, so you can like actually have them like almost turn off the lights and still get input from your fingers.
Because we are, well, I mean, I'm very pleased you watched my video, Brad, the other day. But when I spoke to bottles at Connect, occlusion they're very aware of it, and I think the Apple Vision Pro, this is before Apple Vision Pro, and they was already talking about occlusion as something. Oh, was it before? It was before I tried it anyway. But he was like, we are very aware that this is an important part of the whole thing, because once you try that in Apple Vision Pro, mixed reality is quite magical, but that makes it even more magical without a doubt. So yeah, do you think sometime this year then that would be the update that Quest are gonna make happen at some point?
I really think if they are to do hand occlusion, they would need to first solve the warping, because I think that warping on your hands is probably, because if they occlude your hands, you would still have warped hands and fingers. So I think that's probably higher up in my opinion on what's more important. But I do agree, like for people who haven't tried really good hand occlusion, I would use the word immersive. Like
Yeah.
it's very, very immersive to have.
It's pretty. I found it crazy. It changed every single app I used. Like, yeah, suddenly it really felt like you were there more than ever before.
And something I've never been a fan of, at least on Quest, pulling windows up close and direct touching them, like like interacting with them if they were iPads. But I've noticed with hand occlusion that kind of goes away, because when I can see my hand hovering over the digital content, like a virtual floating iPad or something, and seeing my hand there, I kind of almost get like what's known as phantom sense. Like I can start imagining that I'm tapping on something even though it's not really there.
Yeah.
With the ghost hands on the Quest, I don't really get that feeling, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember that on Quest 2, or maybe even OG Quest. Did hand tracking, was that on the OG Quest?
I think they had it near the end.
Yeah, I think
believe.
so. I think I used a weird magical app. So this had movement in it. It was the first mixed reality. No, it wasn't mixed reality. I'm talking bollocks. It was a VR game that you played with your hands. It was a hand track game, but you could move in it as well. So basically, if you made like this web sort of gesture, it made an arc for you to teleport. I've never really come across that before in a game, and it was pretty cool. But I remember like my hands turned into like squid arms, and I remember like feeling my hands felt different. Like my brain was telling me that these my hands just had a weird feeling going through them, and I'm assuming that's what you're referring to. Is where like you can imagine almost it's so nearly there that you can feel like what you're about to press has some sort of presence, like pressure.
Yeah, it's just like I think again, it's just like I don't know, seeing your hands is very valuable if you're going to do anything related to AR and sometimes VR. I've actually made it so in VR chat, I basically cut off my avatar's arms and hands digitally so I can see my real life arms and hands, but it still connects to my avatar, my digital avatar's body. So it's like a weird out of body
Hybrid
thing. Yeah, it's a hybrid. It's really kind of interesting because I really do like seeing my arms and hands. It looks really good.
But you do agree that when I did that video, that mixed reality is a big push for them as well, because it's I think of it as a bigger doorway. I think we've had this conversation. I think it's a nicer, safer, easier way for people to try a VR headset on and get in one. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, and I think there's a lot more productivity use cases for AR too that might make people not like, even if you don't think about the AR stuff, I think VR has been stuck in this gaming only thing, which is great, but still, like I think getting this technology to a multi-use case scenario is also very good.
I mean, look at Apple. Apple is the complete opposite end of the scale, and it's kind of where Meta wanted to be with the Pro. They wanted to have a gaming headset. You want to play games? Here's games. You want to work? You have this. But the Pro, but I think everyone was so. The fact that he called it Quest probably was a big mistake. Maybe
they could have just delivered. Brad said it when he actually tried it for that month. It was like everything that he wanted it to do just didn't really do it. It was like from
it was
a working
close.
standpoint,
it was like close to everything and not quite.
You got to be snappy like that. The processor, right? If you took the Quest Pro and you stuck the same processor in there, it could be fucking fast. And I'm not saying it would be as good as an Apple Vision Pro, but it would probably actually be viable to use.
So I was supposed to get my review of the Vision Pro out much earlier, but my move kind of pushed things back. So it's probably gonna be like a 2 months later review. But basically, hold on, sorry. Yeah, you are. Anyway.
Hi, Mrs. She's gone. She's run off.
My mother. Anyway.
Oh, your mum. Sorry.
Hello. Yeah, no, it's okay.
Mum, Brad. Mum.
I totally lost my train of thought from that. Anyway, yeah. Okay, Quest Pro being as I said many times, I was excited about the ideas of Quest Pro. I think what they were going for made sense in my brain, but putting it this way, the AVP, even with the displays, I don't feel is a mass market monitor replacement device for the average person. It's not there yet visually, but despite that, the past 2 months using it, like I feel like it delivered on its purpose. And like there's not one piece of hardware that's in that device that I feel is not ever being used. With the Quest Pro, I feel like it was the exact opposite. It felt like a lot of the hardware they put in there was not being used, except for maybe one thing. And even like the display quality and everything, nothing was there yet. There didn't feel like there was an overall vision. It really did feel like a Quest that they just kind of
It was like a prototype, almost something that you
Right.
shouldn't release.
right. It didn't fulfill its promise. Like I feel compared to Apple Vision Pro. Yes, it was much cheaper than Apple Vision Pro, but I don't think it matters when you start talking about, hey, we're going to do VR other than just gaming. You need to prove out the use case with the hardware and software working together, and Quest Pro just wasn't that.
Plus, it's a lot cheaper, but it's not that much cheaper. No, it was high enough to where it, you know what I mean? It didn't do what it was supposed to do. It was a big, like say it was half price, 750. People could have jumped on that and said, this is actually a really good deal. It doesn't do everything I wanted to, but it's worth it. But I like it for $1,000, but I mean it like, is the Quest 3 better? Probably. I just already have a very good headset. I don't need to replace it.
I didn't like using the Quest Pro in general. Like after I kind of like, I think the problem was it was for use cases. So today I was in a conversation with a guy on Twitter, and it was all about patents. And these two guys were like sort of arguing, and they were both kind of right, which made the argument worse because they both couldn't kind of see they were right. But one guy was basically saying that the PSVR 2 was the first headset to utilize these certain features, eye tracking with dynamic foveated rendering and stuff, and it was going on. And I was like, well, kind of like Quest Pro could have done that. Like
it did with a couple games.
Exactly. But I think you can use, but a lot of people now use the Pro with virtual desktop for VR chat and stuff because it kind of had so many features. But to be fair, the PSVR 2 is the first headset where multiple developers are making games that actually do use it properly.
Right.
And like with, for example, Cube, and you do need to see it, Wes. If you need a key or anything, give me a shout. I'm sure you can probably get a key. But like he basically said, the PS5 with PSVR 2 without using those technologies, eye tracking and dynamic foveated rendering, was like trying to run the game on a 2070 GPU. But with dynamic foveated rendering and eye tracking, it became like a 3080 or a 3090 actually, I think is what he said. And basically without those two features, he said the game probably wouldn't have released the game because it looked not good enough. It just didn't look good enough. And he also said that Sony made it really easy for him to implement those features. And it just kind of made me a bit frustrated. I was like, how many of these games have we had so far where they've just released and kind of still looked a little bit PSVR 1.5-ish instead of looking like high end?
I wonder how many of those games are on that old Unity build, because we're hearing so much about these games, these certain ones, that it's taking 3 extra months to get the foveated rendering patch. And when you ask why it takes so long, so much work, people are saying that they had to completely rebuild their game in a new version of Unity to even use it. So it makes me wonder how many of these kind of train wreck launches that we've had over the, since last summer. I wonder how much of that's due to that older version of Unity not supporting the foveated rendering.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Not either.
That's why I'm like I'm still very nervous about the idea of a Quest Lite this early after, especially like the Quest 3's
because we don't have a foveated rendering yet, right? What the fuck, man?
Yeah, it's like, even Quest 3, they have a depth sensor and they use it like maybe once, like per maybe people use it like once per like month just for the Guardian. That isn't even perfected, I would say, with that feature yet. And like it's there's so many things, and I would say Vision Pro more than any headset, and PSVR 2 in some ways, shown the value that good eye tracking adds to a system. Like having a baseline hardware that everyone should support and will support makes the entire ecosystem much better. Whereas Quest 3 doesn't have eye tracking, for example. Quest Lite probably won't have depth sensing or anything like that actively. Like, you're gonna probably have this scenario again where, like with the Quest Pro coming out, the Quest 2 was the most sold at HMD, everyone ignored the Quest Pro developer wise and all the features in it. So they didn't actually port any of those hardware features to make advantage of it. I don't know how Meta, if they ever do like their own Quest Pro 2, how are they not going to repeat history with that, right? Because like what incentivizes developers to not just skip the Quest Pro 2's hardware features and just only develop for the very smallest features that the Quest Lite has when it launches?
I think it's a missed opportunity. We talked about it before. I think they miscalculated in this sense. It's a standalone headset. Like it would benefit from foveated rendering better than anything, right? And what could they be putting out right now if Quest 3 would have came out with that? Maybe been $100 more. Maybe they had maybe the depth. Well, I don't know if they would have needed the depth sensor. I don't think, right? To like maybe they skimp on something
Do you
else.
know,
Somehow they have that, and then over the last couple of years, these games have became standard.
Right.
The foveated rendering
they do,
across
but
the board.
it's kind of like trying to work out what's going to fail. I mean, because let's go back to the PSVR 2 conversation. Yeah, they've got those features, and yet most of the conversations we're having is about the headset failing. And then you would say about Quest 3, it would be $100 more. It would be heavier, potentially. It would take more power, therefore the battery life would be less. And yet we're saying, well, let's have these features, but the headset might have been even less successful, because I don't think the Quest 3 is technically a success yet. You know, they're still working on it. So that's the thing. It's at what point do these technologies become affordable enough to go, well, let's see what happens? Because as Brad just said, and as we know, unless you're a Vertical Robot who make Matter 2, who seem to just do everything, like if you get a new technology, they're going to make a demo that makes it look amazing. All the other developers haven't really got the money to just mess around with this stuff. They're going to be like, we just need to make a good game. You know, we whether it has eye tracking or not, it's difficult, because eventually every headset will have these features. It will have face tracking, eye tracking, dynamic favorited rendering. All of them will. It'd just be a standard thing in this conversation. It'd just be like a black and white TV. But still, it's just when does it happen? Because you're absolutely right. Would Quest 3 games look much better if the conversation's true that you can make? That's like saying a 2070, it now becomes a 3090 by the conversation of the guy talking about Cube. Yeah, that's
we're not talking about standalone limiting games anymore, scope wise or anything. You know, like, so it just would change the conversation completely. And I don't know. We can't have everything, but I just feel like sometimes they focus on the wrong thing. Exactly like Brad said with the Quest Pro. It's like they had, like, I don't know if they thought they were going to be able to do what they did with just a little bit more RAM that they put in there. But you know, when people are multitasking, you got a lot of stuff open, right? Like,
what if Quest Pro, when it came out, they did the Apple look and tap thing and people loved it? Would Quest 3 and future headsets prioritize eye tracking? Because I think that way of input is very intuitive and like something that every headset should look forward to in the future. Like, but Quest Pro launched with hardware features. Meta didn't use it and show off really that many good use cases for it. So we're kind of trapped in this thing where we have to literally beg Meta to release a cheap headset just to kind of revitalize the developer like landscape again. And that frustrates me because I don't know. I think this hardware, obviously I'm always in the opinion that like, I don't even think VR is mass market yet, and they probably won't be for a while. And when you kind of tiptoe with the stuff we need to get there, it's painful for me to watch that kind of product launch. So yeah,
it is, man. And you've been in the space a long time, like we all have, you know. You've been in longer, but when we talk about graphics, when we talk about people like these Quest graphics, like to know that you've played a game like Half-Life Alyx in 2018, and then, or whatever year it was, I don't know when it was, and then
Stormland, same year,
whatever it was, like, and then be looking at what we have now, that isn't progression. It's unfortunately just trying to make VR sell, trying to make it reach a big enough audience that it can keep going. Because I'm sure developers do want to make great games, and they do want to make excellent looking games as well. But yeah, people ain't buying at the moment, unfortunately.
Well, this is the thing. People like really good games. Flat VR doesn't matter.
They do.
And if a game is okay, If it's not the best, if it's good, but it's not really, really good, then it's not going to spark excitement. The really good games, people want to go play. They just do, you
Yeah.
know. And I just feel like a lot of VR games across the board have, like you said, they've maybe they're going being safe. Maybe they're just trying to mass put them out, but there's almost a lot of them, no thought to them. You know, it's like I just see across the board, and it's just a bunch of the same stuff. And you have to wonder, is it worth going into this game? Is my thought anyway. At least a lot of them, you know, because I
Dude,
don't want to go into every game. I have too much shit to go. I still enjoy flat gaming, and the flat gaming has had so many amazing games in the last year, and I'm trying to do it all. You know,
I can't tell you how many emails I get from very nice emails, and I'm like, all right, okay, cool, I'll have a look. And these games look like games
Yeah.
that I saw
Yeah.
before I'd even got in VR. Like, I'm like, and they're like, oh,
Yeah.
can you feature this game? And you kind of think to yourself, like even if I featured it, right, it wouldn't help because everyone who watches me knows me and thinks, I would assume, nearly what I would think of looking at the same thing. They would see me play a game that I'd be thinking looks terribly out of date, and everyone watching it would just think, well, this game's terribly out of date. It doesn't do anyone any favors. It's just,
No.
and you know,
And what do you say to them, right? Because they're coming at you like, "Hey, we'll give you exclusive access to our
and
game
money,
exclusive.
and money.
and yeah, and make you part of our special creator program if you cover it."
Yeah.
And then you click on it and it looks like something that came from the depths of side quest somewhere. And you're just like, "No, I don't want to shit on your game and ruin your dream. Stop talking to me." You know.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, it kind of forcibly goes into the junk pile sometimes. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
missed it. Sorry. No, but yeah, it's difficult because like the more popular you get, the more these things happen. And I do have these conversations, and I do try and help people as much as I can. But I have to pick my battles because if I don't, I could just spend all day replying to comments and bloody replying to emails, and I haven't got time for all of it. Which would kill the channel. But yeah, like a game like Max Mustard, I hope it does well because they've clearly put in so much work into that. So much work.
There's a reason why that embargo lifted 3 days before it launches, and that's because that game is awesome, and everyone says so. And I
Yeah.
think it's going to do quite well.
Yeah, it's a great game, and it's one of those games that the more you play it, the better it gets. Like that's one of the best bits, I think. You know,
And we've only got a couple examples of really good platformers in VR, right? Astrobot, which is on PlayStation VR 1, it's fucking gone. Can't even go play it because I won't hook up my old PlayStation. And then Ven VR.
Yeah.
And then this. I mean, there's other ones out there, but those are the top ones that I would say.
Yeah, I'd say this one is like, I mean, it was difficult for me because there was moments in Astro I don't think I'd ever forget, which was the bit when you go underwater. Like that was an insane moment on that beach. And the other thing Astro definitely is better at is music. Like it had fantastic music. There was also the Thundercloud level. That was absolutely amazing. Reminded me of Sonic Adventure. But this is very close. Like for a developer that's literally gone from making a game where you fucking walk off a plank out of a lift into this is insane, really. It's not something I'd even say they were capable of doing because when they told me the name of the game, Max Mustard, I was a bit like, oh, this is going to be shit, isn't it? You know what I mean? This isn't going to be very good. And then I played it and I was like, yeah, I mean, this, that, and the other, you know, and I did some play testing for them. I did a couple of meetings with them actually, and they really did make some changes. I wish I'd have got in there a bit earlier. There's still some things, but I mean, yeah, I still think music in VR is still lacking in general. Like, there's not many games that I look like. If you told about flat games, I could think of music. You could play me some music and I would know what game it is. But like Boneworks, and there was another game.
Vertigo 2. Vertigo 2's music.
Vertigo
awesome.
2's good. After the Fall, I think that's got really good music. But Boneworks for me is still the one game that I would listen to the soundtrack of. Yeah,
It's the one thing that game developers can get away with skimping on, right? Like you don't have to have good music to have a good game. It does make it better, but it's like one of those things where you can't skimp on voice acting. You can't. There's just certain things you
Yeah,
you
you are.
shouldn't.
No,
You
yeah.
shouldn't.
Yeah.
So
You're probably right. That's probably what happens. I just think, how many times do you watch like a Nintendo presentation and before anything's on the screen, they'll play Zelda, like the first
yeah.
3 seconds, and you know what's going to happen. Do you know what I mean? Like that's the sort of thing I think of. I really hope VR gets there one day. Hope for Gorilla with a $5 donation again. Thank you ever so much. What game is your lowest bar to review without being sponsored? I don't know what the sponsor bit comes into it for me. What game is your lowest bar to review? Oh, you're basically saying what game what's the worst game I review without sponsorship? I don't know if I'm reading that right. Yeah.
Basically, that's what he's saying. What's the worst thing that you would cover
Without
what's
being
your-
paid for it.
Yeah.
I don't know, because I mean I know it sounds like GT's trying to be kept in honest, but I actually don't do many sponsorships because I turn them down, and not 9 times out of 10 that's bullshit. Probably I can't even number it. Now and again, and I do a review, that game was actually meant to be a sponsored video in the first place. So like most people, like you guys, if I have nothing to do with developers and don't know anything about it, that I'll see a trailer. That's all I've got is a trailer. And they're like, do you want to do a sponsored video for this? Bulletstorm was one. And I'm like, hell yeah, can't wait. Love Bulletstorm. And then it turns into I'll do the right thing. I'll say, I'm really sorry, I can't do the sponsorship, but I'd like to give you some feedback. Like, or, and that's how it goes. And then after that, it's just a review. So I've never done a sponsored video. I'm trying to think because I don't want to lie. I'm trying to think. I don't think I've done a sponsored video. No, I don't think I have. I don't think that's happened to me. Every time I turn it down, because end of the day, there was even times where I thought the game was okay, but there were certain things I felt I had to say. Like, I've got to tell people about this. And they're like, this one bit you can't say. And I'm like, well, that's it then. We can't do the sponsorship. Like, I'm trying to tell you that 90% of this game is good, but there's one particular bit that is not good. Like, this is not good, and it's pretty broken. So we need to tell people about it. And they're like, yeah, we'd rather you not say that. So that's me out again. So yeah, it just doesn't, it's not really a factor for me. Do you guys do sponsorship videos?
I think we've done one or two. One was it only? I know the only time.
Not to cover any games. I mean, we did the
you do
the
news,
paid
I
advert.
guess. Yeah.
Yeah, we did the paid advert for Saints and Sinners that time.
Right. So that's the thing. If we already love the game and we're already raving about it, and you want us to tell people about the game and you want to pay us money or whatever it is, yeah, that's a no-brainer.
It's a win-win.
I love this game.
It's called a win-win.
Yeah. But we're like you. We're not looking to shit on games. We're just like, if a developer comes to us, we play a game and we're like, we just would rather not talk about it than go on and start. I just now if we're forced to, that's what we've put that time in for that game, well, then now we're going to go and we're going to talk about it, and maybe there's some things that aren't good about it, but we try to be more positive just by what we select, because I want to play good games. Like I see all these shitty games across the board, and I don't want to touch that. Bulletstorm came, everybody was talking about it. I said, you know what, I'm going to avoid this for a while until it gets better. I don't like playing bad games.
No.
Yeah. We try pretty hard to avoid wasting our time on bad games. Every now and then you'll have one that pops up and surprises you, and it's worse than you thought it was going to be. But for the most part, we probably miss out on some decent games just because we don't want to catch any bad ones.
It's very true. And I was trying to think of an example of that. I mean, Max Mustard, I guess initially was one of the games that I kind of thought I would avoid because it didn't make sense. The name worried me. The fact that these guys have made a plank game that went viral, made them loads of money. So I kind of thought, this is not going to be good. It's going to be, and I was so wrong. I was absolutely wrong. And I was so glad I was wrong, because then I got to help them try and make it really good. I Want a Lot says they're playing Resident Evil 8 while listening to the podcast. Thank you ever so much. got to look out the window and still it scared the shit out of me. So he's saying he's playing Resident Evil 8 while listening to us, and he looked out the window, I guess, in Resident Evil 8, and he still got scared, even though he's got our beautiful voices in his ear roll.
Well, at least we can keep you safe when you look out there and you see there's somebody running at you. That game was good. That was, I think that when we were saying in the Discord and everybody's talking about PlayStation VR 2 dying or whatever people are saying, it still has the best games that VR has to offer.
That's right.
The ones
That's
that
the
I've
same,
played.
that's the same as the first headset.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it's kind of a catch-22 to sit there and trash it when my favorite games of last year were on that console.
Yeah, I'm just so worried because as I said about the narrative of anyone making a gain out of PSVR dying, there's no gain. It'd be a terrible, terrible thing if anything like that happened, because I think it's a fantastic bit of kit, and I think it's got fantastic games. So yeah, that'd be crap. If someone asked me about doing a video with their mum, probably not. Where are we now? Brad, what's your take on Karl Gutag's comment on Alien vs Predators lenses and displays?
Yeah, I think he did some great work to kind of compare the visuals of the most recent Quest 3 versus the Apple Vision Pro. But I think from an experiential standpoint, I would easily put more time looking at text and stuff in the Vision Pro than the Quest 3, despite that it might be more clear. The lenses in Quest 3 might be more clear, right? It's kind of like how the best way I describe it. So there was two versions of the Samsung Odyssey headset. There was the Odyssey and the Odyssey Plus, and there wasn't too much different between those two. However, the Odyssey Plus visually looked better to people, and that's because they added a diffuser on top of the OLED display to kind of hide the screen door effect more. I think a lot of that is kind of what's going on. It's kind of like that. Like the Vision Pro might not have the best displays and like will not show every single screen door effect in every pixel of the display as well as the Quest 3 and Quest Pro lenses do. But from a visual and like enjoyment standpoint, I think that's why most people would prefer the visuals and kind of like rave about the visuals in Vision Pro. So
yeah, I was going to say, you said about the I think the best thing about Apple Vision Pro's control method of this click and point thing, it kind of just feels like you got a remote control in your hand and you're just chilling. It's not really an active thing. You sort of relax. And when you're talking about that earlier routes, you don't want to be using a pickaxe for hours. Like hand tracking on Apple Vision is just so relaxed. You're just sitting there and you're like doing this stuff and everything's happening. And yeah,
Quest 2 or Pro is like this.
Yeah, look how angry he looks.
Click it, son of a bitch. Yeah.
Yeah. I actually like both. I do like to press things, but I'm a fidget, I'm a fidgety person. I'm not necessarily somebody who wants to just sit still for any length of time. But there we go. There we are. So I think it's a good point to wrap up this week's show. Thank you ever so much. All the rest of the team, by the way, are at GDC. Hence, there's 4 of us, but I think next week we should have the full quota. What about you, though, Brad? You might not be. Will you be around next week? I don't know. Brad won't be here next week.
Hey, smart. He's like, no, dude, I'm moving, dude.
Brad has to get his internet hooked up in Wisconsin before he can do anything.
It must take a week to drive from one point to the other anyway.
Probably going to take me 3 or 4 days. Yeah.
Bloody hell. You could do England. I think you can do England in a day. Top to bottom or something. Oh, that is fantastic. Right.
I'm sure a professional truck driver can do what I'm doing in a day, but I definitely cannot. So
you'll be all right, mate. Just wear your Apple Vision Pro all the way. Like,
yeah, there you go. I bet your wife would love that. Like, probably not the best time.
I don't think so.
Nice. Well, thank you ever so much, everyone, for joining us today. Thank you for the likes. Thank you for your comments. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you ever so much to the channel members, and thank you ever so much for everyone who donated during the show. Thank you to Wes and Root from Virtual Strangers. Be sure to subscribe to that podcast. Check them out. Subscribe to Sadly It's Bradley and his other channel because he's greedy. Gladly It's Bradley over on YouTube. And yeah, And also check him out. Check Bradley out on Twitter. Like, if you really want
Yeah.
up to the date stuff, Twitter. That's why I love Twitter, dude. Like, Twitter's like my place where literally you can just chuck up anything you want to think about, kind of thing. I have to not do it a lot.
Right. Yeah. It's like you remember what you're there for. You're like, okay, never mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm the same way.
But it's also like the question earlier about if we watch other people's videos. I don't normally have to because I'll know everything that video is gonna have based on Twitter the previous day. So
That's true.
Yeah. Very true. Snowtoad, how you doing? Say hello to Mrs. Snowtoad for me. Hello, DWE. Hello, everyone. Hi. We didn't say hello to anyone, really. I'm terrible at this on the show. I literally just get straight into the conversation because genuinely, I try not to talk to these boys. And when Alex isn't here, we could have got a word in edgeways. So I really wanted to make sure that we didn't say too much. So yeah. But guys, again, have a great week. Thank you ever so much. Look after yourselves. Be nice to each other. And we'll see you next time. Take care. Thank you. Bye.
Take it easy.